Hi, my name is Will Holton. I'm a Foreign Service Officer here at the US Embassy in Zagreb, and I'm very excited that today we have Mr. Rob Williams from the US Memorial Holocaust Museum. Thank you, Rob, for being here. If you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rob Williams. I'm the Deputy Director for International Affairs at the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum.
Great, Rob, you're with the Holocaust Museum in Washington, D.C. Can you tell us why you're here in Croatia?
Sure. U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum is actually part of the U.S. government. We are an independent federal establishment is our name. And as such, we have not just a domestic agenda when it comes to ensuring Holocaust education and remembrance, but an international one. So the reason I'm here in Croatia, well, there are a few reasons. One, Croatia will soon, in 2023, have the presidency of something called the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance.
Wow.
And we are here to help them with that, to try to build some partnerships and to help them along. I'm a senior member of the U.S. delegation to that body. The other reason we're here is we've had very successful and productive relationships with Croatian institutions on Holocaust issues over the years. I'm here to not only affirm those relationships, but to build them up, to try to find new ways that we can engage, new ways that we can bring people to the subject of the Holocaust and its relevance today in Croatia, because we really see Croatia as pivotal in this region. For a whole host of reasons, the history of the former Yugoslavia during the Holocaust has been largely ignored. We think Croatia is in a position now to make that story known on an international level, so we want to help them along.
Great. And how did Croatia get selected to be the presidency of this body?
They volunteered.
Wow. Well, great for them then.
Yeah, the IRA, as its initialization is called, has rotating presidency every year, and Croatia will follow Sweden, who is the presidency this year.
So why is it that Croatia's history with the Holocaust and during the Holocaust is important to the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum?
Well, Croatia, unfortunately, has the legacy of being a perpetrator country during the Holocaust. There was a government installed by the Germans after the occupation of Yugoslavia, and that government carried out crimes not only against Jews, but against Roma and ethnic Serbs. And as a result, it has a particular duty to engage with that troublesome past. Why is that important? The only way to have a healthy, peaceable, and active citizenry is to have an honest relationship with your history. And Croatia has done quite a bit to start bringing that level of engagement forward. But there's a series of steps that still need to be taken. So that's one reason. The other reason is the whole history of the former Yugoslavia, all the former Yugoslav republics, have been largely ignored in our international understanding of what happened during the Holocaust. For the most part, our knowledge is based on what we know the Germans did, what we know happened in German-occupied Poland, to a certain extent, what the Romanians were responsible for, and that's about it. You have a whole region of Europe that has an important legacy, an important narrative to tell during that period of history, and we need to integrate that into this shared international understanding of the subject.
One thing about the U.S. is, when we are abroad, we wear our spots. We've made our mistakes in the past. We've had our history and troubles as well. So I think the relationship with Croatia and being able to be a leader and a partner in helping them confront this is really important. Do you see those parallels can work together?
You mentioned the fact that we in the United States have tried to wrestle with the more troublesome aspects of our past, and there's still a lot of work that we can do on that front to have an honest relationship with our own history so that we can know how to move forward together. Croatia has also gone through similar struggles in its historical legacies, and they've made some advances in some areas that perhaps we could learn lessons from, or we can share our best practices with our Croatian friends and allies. I think there's a lot that we can learn from one another, and that's in part why I'm here.
What are some of the most pressing issues facing Holocaust awareness?
Well, there are a few. I mean, to a certain extent, we need to remember that we are more than 7 decades since the end of the Holocaust and the Second World War. With the passage of time, these things become more and more remote, and maintaining interest in subjects can shift. The Holocaust, however, is one of these shared moments of international history where we have a break in our civilizational contract, something akin to a revolution. So we need to continue to push people to engage with this subject, no matter how remote it might be. There are a few challenges. One obvious challenge is the survivors and witnesses are unfortunately dying. They won't be around much longer. We need to carry forth the legacy of the survivors as we move ahead. The other challenge is a little more intentional. There are more and more cases of both state actors and non-state actors engaging in various forms of disinformation around Holocaust issues, and that muddies the waters. It makes our collective respect for the subject diminish somewhat, and it makes it difficult for us to understand what happened back then and why it matters now when you have certain countries or certain organizations making selective use of the facts for other purposes, whether it is domestic propaganda or sowing discord at the social level or trying to reach and radicalize at-risk audiences like the youth or the economically depressed. We have more and more cases of this form of Holocaust distortion facing us today, especially online, and that's a huge, huge challenge. We're working actually very closely with state to try to address a few of these.
Absolutely. Disinformation is definitely, I think, not a new challenge, but one of the biggest challenges we face these days.
Yeah.
And if I could just get you to do a quick soundbite in the way of just a quick question of why does Holocaust awareness matter? Kind of what you've just said, but if I just said to you for your 5-second elevator pitch,
Sure.
Why does Holocaust remembrance matter?
Holocaust remembrance and awareness matter because within the history of the Holocaust, you have the entire spectrum of the human experience. You have the very best in the rescuers, you have the very worst in the perpetrators, and you have everything in between. It also matters because it is one of those few phenomena of the past that we share. It doesn't matter if you were in an allied country like the United States, an Axis country like Germany, a neutral country like Spain, or a country that was occupied by the Germans like Poland. This is part of our shared past. It is one of those moments in time that bind us together, and that's also why it matters.
So do you think human beings can actually learn from their past?
That's a difficult question. To a certain extent, yes. But we also need to remember that such things don't follow a straight trajectory. It's much more like a roller coaster. And we may be in certain dips right now, but we may have highs just around the corner. We need to keep trying.
Yes, absolutely. What are your goals here in Croatia?
My goals are to surface a few new opportunities for cooperation between the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum and Croatian institutions, to develop with Croatian partners a few programs that can help them have a successful presidency of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance, and to try to develop ways to work with Croatian partners at both the governmental or non-governmental levels to influence the teaching and research of this history on a regional basis as well.
I think a lot of people out there might think, how does this still relate to me? What can I do? How can I engage with these issues on a personal level? What is it that you would recommend to people?
There are a few initiatives, including some run by the U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum, that encourage everyday people to get involved in a research level. There are quite literally hundreds of millions of pages of archival documents from the Holocaust that we are in the process of digitizing, but to digitize you also need to be able to code it. You need to be able to have some keywords. We have a few initiatives that they can get involved in there. You can even do something as simple as a commemoration ceremony around International Holocaust Remembrance Day in January. Yeah. We have resources that can help in those efforts as well. So there are a lot of different ways to get involved. And the reason to get involved is, again, because this is part of our shared past. It helps us understand who we are and where we're going as a collective society.
Holocaust Remembrance Day is different in Israel, though, right?
Yes.
Why is that?
Well, also in the United States, actually.
In the United States is different as well. Okay.
So we have two. It's called Yom HaShoah in Israel. Usually it's in April
right,
or
that's
May.
what I thought. Yes, it is. So it should be coming up
very soon.
Very soon.
And
okay.
in the United States, we also recognize that during a week-long a series of events called Days of Remembrance that
Okay.
fall around Yom HaShoah. The U.S. Holocaust Memorial Museum is in charge.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah, we
yeah.
organize that program with Congress every year.
Okay.
So.
Oh, wow, great. Is there anything we haven't touched today that you really just want to, get that word out? Because the work you're doing is important, and this is a great partnership, as you've said. So we want to make sure we're doing our best to, as human beings, as government employees, as everything to come together.
Well, one thing I would like to explore while we're here in Croatia is to try to learn if there are ways that we can work with Croatian experts in order to develop a regional approach to looking at this history with clear eyes. Unfortunately, in a few countries in the Western Balkans, there's been a tendency to operationalize this history for more contemporary purposes, and I think we need to move past that if we're going to have a healthy engagement. So I'd like, while we're here, to see if there are ways to develop a commission of experts to look at the history and publish it in ways that can reach new audiences so that we can be more forthright as we move ahead in the next 70-odd years.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Rob, for being with us here. Thank you for being in Croatia and helping with this partnership, as you said, and we want to congratulate the Croatians on this wonderful honor. How long will the presidency last for?
Each presidency is a year.
A year.
Yeah.
So 1 year to really be in there and make a difference. So we'll be excited
highlight
to
their
see.
Successes. Exactly.
Yes, yes. And I don't know if you know this, but it's the 30th anniversary of diplomatic relations between the United States and Croatia. So I think this is, again, a good time to highlight again how it is that we can learn from them and they can learn from us, because it's been 30 years of continued back and forth.
Yep.
And like you said, we look forward to seeing where the next 30 years take us. So thank you so much for watching today. Please follow, like, and share U.S. Embassy on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.